Okay, today is Thursday, and it's our third class for the Stretch and Strengthen exercise series. This is our low impact and low intensity exercise class. So it's quite a gentle way to start your morning. This class is recorded just like our previous exercise classes. And so if anyone has missed previous classes or they would like to try the exercises again, you're welcome to do so by following the PSBC YouTube channel, and all of the exercise class recordings will be uploaded onto there. If you're not sure where to find that, you can always send me an email after class and I'd be happy to direct you to the link, and I will just put my email here in the chat box for you. It's syu@parkinson.bc.ca. So today's week 3 of our class. We have 8 weeks for this series, and as we progress in the class, we will make the exercises harder and harder. So ideally, some of the exercises you see at the beginning of the series, so for the first 4 weeks or so, we'll be able to build on that as the weeks go on. Now, I know there are a couple of new folks joining us today. So if today's the first time you're joining our class, welcome. And if it's your first time exercising ever, welcome as well. And this is quite a nice, gentle class to start with. So you're definitely in the right place. For those who are looking for a higher level or higher intensity exercise class, you can always have a look at our other class offerings coming up in the spring if you're interested in that. But this class is relatively gentle, so anybody can join in for this one. And with the Stretch and Strengthen class, the way that it works for those who haven't done it before is we start in a seated position. So we start in a chair for the beginning of the class, and then we move to a standing version, and then we move back down to a seated version again. So sort of we move throughout the class from sitting to standing and then back to sitting again. And we'll be working on different skills in the class as well. But as the name implies, because it's a stretch and strengthen class, we'll be doing lots of lengthening type work as well as some strengthening work. We are on the Zoom webinar platform, so if you do have any questions, you're welcome to use the chat box. Hopefully you can see that. If you jiggle your mouse a little bit at the bottom of the screen, there is a little banner that comes up, and there's a chat icon, so you can click on that and you can use the chat box to ask any questions or write any comments if you like. I can see some of you already found the chat box. Hello. And if you prefer not to type and you want to ask a question over voice, you can do so by using the raise hand function, which is also on that same bar where you can find the chat box. And once you click raise hand, I can enable your microphones, and then that way you are welcome to ask your question at the end if you like. Hopefully you can see me and hear me okay. And if you have any tech issues during the session, you're welcome to write in the chat box as well. But I won't be able to necessarily answer instantaneously because I will be moving with you, but I will move up and I'll try to look at the chat box every now and then. Okay, I think that's everybody. I don't think I see anybody stuck in the waiting room. Okay, well, let's get started. I'll move back to my chair now. So hopefully you can see me here okay. I've had to lower my blinds today because the sun is coming in and it makes little blotchy patterns with the camera. So I wasn't sure if you can see me then. Okay, so we're starting in our chair. Now, ideally you want to be in a chair without armrest, just because as we get moving today, you just don't want to have to watch your elbows and things like that. You might hit your elbows on the armrest, or you might accidentally fall over the side of the armrest, those kind of things. But of course, if you only have a chair with armrest, that's okay. Just be a little bit mindful as we're moving today, not to injure yourself. And I'm going to turn sideways for a second because I just want to show you my position in the chair. So as we're doing our class today, when we're in a seated position, you can see that here I've got lots of space between my back and the actual chair itself. So you want to be sitting at the front of your seat ideally, and we don't want to be sitting back here, because if we're sitting back here, number one, we're probably leaning into the chair. We're not in a very active position. We're kind of leaning into the chair while we're trying to move. But also number two, if you're this far back in the seat, your hips are quite stuck. There's not really any room for you to move your legs. Whereas if you come to the front of your seat, you're now sitting upright, but you also have a lot more room to play with in your hips. So you can actually move around better when you're at the front of the seat. So when we're doing our seated portion of the class today, please try to sit at the front of your seat, ideally not leaning back or slouching over to the side. You want to sit nice and tall, trying to get those shoulders balanced over those hips, okay? Although with that said, there's a few exceptions where we are going to be slouching in the chair, but I will tell you about that when we actually do that, okay? So unless I say we're slouching in the chair, we're assuming that we're sitting nice and tall at the front of the seat. Okay, we're gonna get started here. Shuffle to the front of your seat, feet flat on the floor. Arms just dangling by your side, and we're gonna start with a breath in. And we're gonna reach those arms up overhead. You're going to lace those fingers together, and you're gonna turn your palms up to the ceiling. You're really reaching and stretching the palms up as high as you can towards the ceiling. Big stretch, holding it here. We're gonna go on a bit of a diagonal, stretching to the right and then to the left. And then back to the middle. And then we're gonna unlock those fingers and circle the wrists all the way down. And we're gonna do that again. Breath in, arms coming up overhead, lace the fingers, reach the palms, stretch them towards the ceiling. And then pull the stretch over onto a diagonal on each side. My chair is squeaking as I'm doing this. My dog at home tends to like to chew on the wood of the chair, so the chair is a little unstable at the moment. I have to get a new chair. Okay, one more time. Breathing in, stretching those palms towards the ceiling as high as you can go. Pulling the stretch over on a diagonal, so reaching as far as you can with those palms. Back to the middle, and we're going to circle our wrists all the way down. We're going to float the arms up, opening those fingers, and we're going to go into a bit of a side stretch here. So we're reaching the arms in opposite directions, and you're kind of tilting that shoulder down towards the hip. It's really important that when we're doing this, it's not just the arms moving, right? But your entire body is tipping to the side, and you want to try to keep the hips down on the chair. So you don't want to be lifting your sit bones up. You want to lower the sit bones. So you want both sit bones on the chair when we're doing the stretch. Nice long neck. And coming back up, drop the arms, float the arms to the other side, and we do the same thing. Leaning over, both sit bones down on the chair. Try not to lift that hip, but press it down, heavy hips into the chair. So you should feel the stretch on the side of your torso. And coming up, drop the arms. This time we're going to take our hand, reach the opposite knee. Then your other hand's going to wrap around the back of the chair, grab hold of the back of the chair, sit up tall, and you're going to pull yourself around into a rotational stretch. It's almost like you're trying to bring your chest to the back wall. Ooh, this chair is very shaky today, my goodness. Hopefully I don't fall in the class today. Okay, and release. Take to the other side. Take your other hand, reach the opposite knee. Then your other hand's wrapping around the back of the seat. Ooh. Oh, hang on a sec. Okay, let's try that again. Take your hand, reach the opposite knee, then your other hand's gonna wrap around the back of the seat, sit nice and tall, and you're gonna pull yourself around into a rotational stretch. Hopefully you're looking at the back wall and you're trying to twist your breastbone to the back wall as well. Your knees should still stay where they are. So ideally, we're not like this with our legs. So we don't want to be turning our legs over. We want to keep our legs firmly planted where they are, nice and tall. So you're rotating like a corkscrew. Keep breathing. Nicely done. And then we're going to release back to the center. Stay where you are. I'm going to turn sideways for a second. Excuse the squeaky chair. So now we're going to shuffle ourselves back in the seat. This is one of the slouching exercises I was talking about. We're shuffling all the way back in the seat, and then we're going to lean into the backrest of the seat. From here, you're going to float those arms up behind your head like so, ideally the elbows pointing out to the side. So don't let the elbows point forward. We want to open those. We want to open those elbows out to the side, open them out to the side. So you're stretching the front of your chest. Then from here, you're going to lean up and over the back of the seat so that you're looking at the ceiling. Your breastbone is facing the ceiling. And you should feel a stretch here in your chest and also your upper back. Being careful not to tip back in the chair too far because we don't want you to fall over. Just be mindful here. And then we come back to the middle and you drop your arms. We're going to do that one more time. Same thing. You're slouching in the seat. Bring those arms up behind the head. Make sure the elbows are facing outwards, not forward. Open the elbows out to the side, so you're really stretching the chest. And then you go up and over the backrest of the chair, but of course, being mindful not to fall out of the chair. Breathing in the stretch. And coming back up, we're going to sit up tall again using our tummy muscles and shuffle to the front of the seat again. I'm going to turn back and face you. We're going to step those legs out like so. Put your hands on the inside of your thighs, and you're going to push those legs out more. Sit up tall, and you're going to hinge forward at the hips. Let me go from the side for a second. So legs wide, push open from the inside of your thigh. Sit tall, and you're hinging forward at the hip. So we're not doing this, but we're sitting tall. And we're hinging at the hips to come forward. So you should feel a stretch on the inner thighs. And the more you push those legs outwards, the more you feel that stretch. You might not have to lean very far. You could probably feel it just by sitting up tall and hinging forward a little bit. Try to keep your spine as long as you can. And then coming back up, bring those legs in again. Sitting up tall, we're going to place our hands onto our hips. And what we're going to do here is we're going to lift those heels off the floor as high as you can go. Put them back down and lift the toes off the floor and put them back down. And we're going to keep repeating this movement for a moment, just warming up the ankles. And as you're doing this, I want you to imagine you're balancing a book on your head or on your shoulders, maybe on your head and your shoulders. And you're trying not to tip them. So you don't want to be, let me turn sideways so I can show you. When you're doing this movement, you don't want to be doing this as you're lifting the feet. I'm exaggerating. I'm sure no one's doing it like that. But you want to try to keep yourself as still as possible. So it's almost like imagine your body's a statue and you've only got kind of like a motorized joint where your ankles and your knees are. So those are kind of the only compartment that's moving. The rest of your body is staying as still as possible. So we're not swaying to the side or collapsing forward like this when we're moving the ankles, but we're keeping ourselves up nice and tall. Imagine you've got the book on your head and on your shoulders, and the only thing that's moving is really the ankles. So you're holding your tummy muscles nice and still, dissociating the movement from the rest of the body. Good, keep going. Oh, I can feel the wooden slats of my chair moving as I'm doing this. I think it's time for me to hide my furniture away from the dog. Keep going, let's do a few more. Nice and tall, tummy muscles in. Good. Now we're going to take this movement a little further now. So same thing as before, we're imagining that book balancing on our head, but this time, rather than moving our ankles up and down like this, we're going to slide one heel forward along the floor, almost like you're drawing a line on the floor with your heel. And then you're pulling that heel back in again. Oh, I just realized the sun's in the way, so you might not be able to see. Okay, let's try that again. So sliding that heel away from you, like you're drawing a line on the floor, and then you slide it back in. And then we do the same thing on the other side. Slide the heel away, slide it back in. And as you're doing this, just like before, we want to avoid this with our body. We're leaning. We want to avoid our legs shaking. So from the front, you can see when I'm moving one leg, my other leg stays still, right? So I'm not doing this. I'm exaggerating. I'm sure no one's doing it like that, but we're not moving our knee, right? So as we're sliding one leg, we're not getting the other leg to move. We're keeping it stable. We're keeping the opposite knee stable, and the entire body doesn't move. So it's like if I used a big tarp and I covered your legs and I couldn't see your moving leg at all, and I only saw the rest of your body, I shouldn't be able to tell that you're moving at all. So you want to be nice and still, nice and controlled with this movement here. You can probably feel that if you're sitting too far back in the chair, you're not actually sitting at the front of your chair, you're not going to be able to do this very much, because if I'm sitting back here, there's not really any room for me to slide that leg because my thigh gets stuck on the chair. So you want to be sitting at the front of your seat, so you have lots of room for your leg to actually move. So really imagining your body like a statue. Nothing moves except for the select leg that's sliding the heel out and coming back in. Nice trunk control here. Dissociate the movement of the leg from the rest of the body. Good. We're going to add on to this a little bit. Same thing. We're keeping our body nice and still. This time, rather than just sliding the heel out and bringing it back in, we're going to straighten the leg such that the shin bone comes up and lines up with the thigh bone. And then we'll bring it back down. Same on the other side. Keep your body still. We're straightening the leg and lower it. And now, if I show you on this leg for a second, what I don't want to see is this lift and a drop, okay? I want this part to stay still, your thigh to stay still. The bottom half of your leg is coming up to meet the thigh, and it comes down. So you should feel in your thigh muscle quite a lot. So the thigh bone stays still. I'm not lifting and dropping, lifting and dropping. I stay still. I'm straightening the leg. I'm bringing the shin bone up to match my thigh. So if I covered your leg from below the knee and I can only see your thigh and the rest of your body, it shouldn't look like you're moving at all, because this part and the rest of you is not moving. So give that a try. I know this one's a little tougher because you've got to rely on those thigh muscles quite a lot. We can't just go and drop and drop. So we got to be using those thigh muscles for control a little more. And just like before, when you're moving one leg, the other leg is completely still, right? So if I'm covering your shins from view and I only saw the rest of your body from the knee upwards, it shouldn't look like you're moving at all. And that includes your stationary leg. Good, keep going nice and tall. Try to sit up tall over the sit bones. Just like before, if you're sitting really far back in your seat, this is probably going to be too easy, because see how my thigh bone is already supported by the chair. So if I'm sitting back here, easy, because I'm not actually having to use too much of my thigh muscle because it's already on the seat. But you want to be sitting forward in the chair so you can actually strengthen those thigh muscles and get that leg up. Nicely done. Keep your body still. You're bringing your shin up to match the height of your thigh. Nicely done. A few more. Hopefully you're not holding your breath, you're still breathing. A few more. Sitting up tall. And rest there for a second. I'm gonna turn back to face you. Okay, we'll give those legs a rest for a moment, sitting up nice and tall. We're now gonna go into our neck roll. So we're gonna give our neck a gentle warm up and a gentle bit of a stretch. So we're gonna bring the chin down towards our chest, and then you're going to roll your head over your neck in sort of like a semicircular type pattern. So the chin down, and you're kind of rolling through the bottom of the neck in a semicircle. Take your time on this. Try to make the movement as smooth as possible. So hopefully not a jerking kind of movement. I'm sure no one's doing it like that, but you want it to be as smooth as possible, a smooth semicircle. And just go as far as you feel you're able to. You don't have to pull the head down really far. You're still sitting up tall, hopefully. On the next one, you're going to complete the circle. And you're going to keep going all the way across the top of the semicircle. And then back down. So essentially, you're doing a whole circle, and then you're going the other direction. Just like before, you want the circle to be as smooth as possible. You don't want any jerky movement here. Smooth circle. And it should be a circle and not a triangle or oval. So make sure you get all of the rounded corners. Although I guess it's no corners in a circle, but you get what I mean. Hopefully you're still sitting up nice and tall. Okay, we'll bring our head back to neutral. We're now going to work on the deep muscles of our neck here. So you probably remember this from our previous classes. I'm going to turn sideways for a second. So remember in previous classes, we were talking about a lot of times we're in this kind of posture. And so what happens is our shoulders are rounded, our neck is coming forward, and because our head and neck's coming forward, we're having to crunch through the back of our necks to lift the head up so we can see where we're going when we're navigating our environment. And so what happens when you're in this kind of position is that the front of the neck gets really long, gets really stretched, and it gets weak. And the back of the neck is really tight, but it's also weak because we're not really using it. We're crunching through the back of the neck. And so what we're trying to do here with this next exercise is we're going to try to use the front muscles of our neck to kind of tighten that area. So we're going to strengthen the front of our neck and lengthen the back of the neck at the same time. So kind of stretching that out. So to do this, you're imagining how a pigeon walks. So if you've ever seen a pigeon walking down the side of the street, they're always like this with their necks, right? So that's kind of what we're embodying, except rather than going forward, we're going back. So we're, instead of doing this, we're doing that same movement, but backwards. And so essentially you're thinking about this orientation of if there's a line coming from your forehead and your chin, this line doesn't change. We're not dipping our head up and down. This stays here, but we're just pulling the entire thing back over our shoulders like that. Okay, so we're gonna practice that. So you're gonna gently pull the head in, so almost like you're holding a little peach under your chin, but we're not dipping the head down or looking up, right? We're keeping our head in one orientation, but we're pulling it back, holding it for 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and relax. And we're going to do that again, same thing. Holding the head back in one straight orientation, like you got a little peach under your chin, holding it for 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and release. Keep trying that in your own time, holding for 5 seconds if you can, tucking that chin in. It's almost like you're making like a double chin. I'm giving you as many analogies as I can because sometimes cues work differently for different people. The pigeon one might make sense for someone, but it might not make sense for the next person. So you can either think about that pigeon head, but going backwards instead of forwards, or you can think about holding a little peach under your chin, or you're making a double chin, except when you're making a double chin, you're not looking down, you're still keeping your head in one orientation. Hopefully that makes sense. This is probably going to feel really tough for a lot of you because this deep neck muscle at the front, we don't tend to use very much when we're in this kind of position. So it's going to feel quite weak and quite deconditioned and almost like you're not able to get that range you're hoping to get, and it's okay. You got to start somewhere, so it's good to get those muscles engaged and turning them on. Now I'm going to turn to face you again. On the next one, where you bring the chin in, we're going to add in a rotation like we did last time. So you bring that chin in and you're holding it in and you're going to rotate the head on, you're going to rotate the head on top of the neck. We're not going around the neck, we're rotating on top of the neck, 45 degrees to one side, then back to the middle, 45 degrees to the other side, and back to the middle. And this movement is very different to this. I'm exaggerating, but I wanted to show you this is not the movement we're looking for. We want the chin in and it stays in as you're rotating. So I don't want the chin to come back out. We're keeping it in as we're rotating to either side. So you're balancing the head on top of the neck and you're rotating on the axis. We're not leaving the chin out and in every time. Does that kind of make sense? So try that chin in, and we're rotating 45 degrees to one side, 45 degrees to the other side. This one's a bit of a tough one. But keep going. Hopefully you're sitting up nice and tall. Really think about tucking that chin in, but not down, right? In, not down, in. And release. Okay, relax that for a second. Let's look up at the ceiling for a second and just place your hand on your collarbones here and you just pull down. So slide it down as you look up. You can stick your chin out as well to give that a bit of a stretch. And release. Okay. I'm going to turn sideways again. So we are now going to practice our sit to stand. We're going to move into the standing portion of the class. Now, I know we have a couple of new people here today, so we're going to go over the sit to stands that we did from the last 2 weeks, but I'm also going to add on an optional challenge for those who have been here for the last few weeks if you wanted to try, but we'll start with the basic one. So when we're doing to sit to stands, common mistakes that people make is not bringing your center of gravity over your base of support, your feet, okay? So what we see a lot in sit to stands is a lot of people either start too far back in the chair, so when you're standing, you're, see how far back my weight is? See where my feet are and where my weight is? My weight is way too far back. It's not over my feet enough, so then I'm having to do this inching movement or try to pull myself up over my leg. So that's not an efficient way to stand. We want to shuffle ourselves to the front of the seat, and we want to try to bring our weight forward over our base of support, so over our feet. Bring it forward over your base of support in order to then push yourself up, because you're balancing, essentially you're balancing your center of gravity, your weight over your base of support. Same with sitting back down. I'm balancing my center of gravity over my base of support, and then I sit back. And that's essentially what balance is in a simple form of explanation. Balance is more complicated than that, but in a matter of speaking, your balance is essentially your ability to bring your center of gravity over your base of support, no matter where your base of support is. So if your base of support is moving, you're walking, you're turning, your ability to continuously bring your center of gravity over your base of support is how you balance. A sit to stand is a great way to start that, to start feeling what I'm talking about here. So we're practicing our sit to stands nice and slow, and I don't want to see anybody do this, because you see how as soon as I lift my bottom, my weight's still back here, it's too far from my base of support. You got to bring your weight forward over your base of support and keep it balanced over your base of support as you're pushing up to a stand. And then keep your weight balanced over your base of support as you're coming back down into a sit. So give that a go. Try it in your own time. The slower, the better. Ideally, we don't want to see this. We don't want that kind of 1, 2, 3 pattern. You want to think about doing it nice and slow. Really feel that translation of weight over your feet in order to push yourself up to standing. So keep doing that. Now, if you've been here for the last 2 weeks and you want a bit of a challenge, I'm going to challenge you to bring one leg slightly more forward than the other leg. And so now we're biasing the back leg. And so you're imagining your front leg has little bits of eggshell underneath it. So I don't want to be stomping on that leg. There's a little eggshell under that foot. And I'm going to do the same thing for the sit to stand, biasing this back leg. So I'm going to bring my weight forward over this back leg, and I'm going to keep my weight over this back leg to stand. So my front leg is essentially there just for a bit of balance, but I'm not stepping on it. Imagine those eggshells, okay? Same thing when you sit back down, you're biasing this back leg. You're keeping your weight balanced over the back leg as you're sitting back down. Okay, so you're kind of leaning to the side a little bit. Do 3 on one side, and then we switch the legs. So you're biasing the other side, and you're doing the same thing, 3 on the other side, putting your weight on that back leg. So if you wanted to, you could technically take one leg off the floor and do the same thing, but I'm not suggesting you do that now. I just mean as in you want to keep that front leg nice and light as you're practicing your sit to stand. If you don't want to do the challenge of the biased one leg, that's okay. Keep your both feet on the floor, absolutely fine. And just practice the same thing, moving your center of gravity over your base of support, balancing your center of gravity over your base of support the entire time. Keep going. I think I see a comment. Oh, how many sides does a circle have? I know, right? Great question. Question is, how many sides are there in a circle? Probably no side, infinity, because technically it's not a side, I suppose, because it goes around in a loop. Okay, anyway, I'm getting off track. I tend to talk a lot in these classes, and then sometimes I throw myself off track and get distracted, so you'll have to excuse me a little bit. Keep going. So either with the biasing of one leg, or you have both feet on the same spot. Either one is okay, but I just want you to really emphasize that this exercise we're doing now is not to see how many sit to stands you can do or how quickly you can do this, but rather I want you to use this exercise to experience the technique of bringing your center of gravity over your base of support as you're moving. Okay, this is the main point of the exercise. You're balancing your center of gravity over your base of support rather than a competition to see how many sit to stands you can do. Make sense? Yeah. Okay. So either do the biasing version or do the normal version, up to you. Just practicing this nice and slow. You're keeping your center of gravity over your base of support the entire time. If this is really, really challenging for you, you can also start with a taller chair. So a higher chair will make it easier to do this from, because you're not having to push yourself as much because you start up here, right? So imagine if my chair was this high, I'm already halfway up, so it's easier for me to do that stand because I don't have much to do. I won't have much range to have to go through. So if this exercise is really tough and you're just not able to feel what I'm talking about with the balancing of the center of gravity over the base of support at all, then try from a taller chair. Let's do 2 more sit to stands in your own time, as slow as you can. The slower the better, because then we're really controlling ourselves and we're not using momentum or arms to kind of pull ourselves up. Okay, and on your last stand, I want you to stay standing. Okay, so now we're doing the standing portion of the class. When we're doing standing, I always suggest for you to hold on to something. You don't have to, but if you feel like your balance is worrying you a little bit, or you're afraid of falling, please do hold on, because we want to be as cautious as we can, but also give you the opportunity to practice some of these skills. So you can either have a chair in front, a chair to the side, whatever you need. But when I'm doing the standing version, I'm always going to put the chair to the side, just because I need you to see my legs. So there's no reason why you can't have a chair in the front, but if I'm demonstrating exercise here, you won't be able to see me. So for the purpose of that, I'm moving my chair away, and sometimes I might not hold on. So it's up to you. You can hold on or you cannot, okay? So back to talking about our ability to balance a center of gravity over our base of support, we're going to add on to that. So our feet are flat on the floor, hip width apart. We're going to practice, we're going to balance our center of gravity over a base of support, and we're going to shift our weight. We're going to shift our weight to the front of our feet, and then we're going to shift our weight to the back of the feet. So from the side, actually, you can see me better this way. So see how right now I'm balancing on top of my base of support? Yeah. I'm going to shift my weight forward to the front of my feet, and then I'm going to shift my weight backwards to the back of my feet. And it's kind of like an upside down pendulum, like an inverted pendulum here. So this movement, I'm keeping my center of gravity balance on top of my base of support. I'm keeping my hips on top of my feet. So this movement is very different to this, right? This is a very different movement. I'm not bending my hips over my legs. I'm keeping my entire center of gravity forward, and then I'm pushing it all back. So the idea here is you want to bring the weight to the very edge, the end borders of your base of support. So go as far as you can forward and as far as you can backwards without losing your balance and having to take a step or bend those knees to kind of save yourself with that balance. So you want to keep yourself balanced on top of your feet here. So just try that. Really feel the weight shift forward and then feel the weight shift back, but being able to control that and not lose your balance as you're doing this. Really control that. And now when you're ready, we're going to add on to this a little bit. We're going to bring one leg forward. Doesn't matter which one, because we'll do both. We'll bring one leg forward, and we're going to do the same thing. We're going to bring our center of gravity to the front edges of our base of support, and then we're going to bring it back to the back edges of our base of support. So you're swaying. This movement will be bigger because one leg is forward, one leg is back. And when you're doing this, we're not lining up our feet. So from the front, I'm not crossing my legs or lining them up. I'm just bringing the leg forward. Okay, so I'm not crossing them, just keeping it forward. And we're just practicing swaying. Really be conscious about this body awareness. You're feeling where you're shifting your weight forward and back. That's it, you're shifting your weight. And then when you're ready, we're going to add on to this even more. So now what we're going to do is the front leg, as we shift our weight back, we're going to pick it up and bring it back behind us. And then we're going to pick it up and bring it forward in front of us. So you're kind of doing a forward step and a backward step, and you're using the same leg. The same leg is doing this forward step, backward step. So I'm using my right leg, the one that's away from you here. This one is the one that's going forward and going back. And I'm practicing this weight shift of keeping my center of gravity over my base of support at all times. My base of support is going back, so is my center of gravity. My base of support is going forward, so is my center of gravity. You're trying to keep that on top of your base of support. Hopefully that makes sense. You're doing a forward step and a backward step Just being mindful here. Hold on if you need to. I don't want anyone to trip or fall. Be careful about your surroundings. Hopefully there's nothing you can stub your toe on or trip over. And of course, hold on if you need. I'm not holding on at the moment because you won't be able to see me if I do. But I'm doing a step forward and a step back. See how high you can lift that leg. Nicely done. A few more, and then we're going to switch legs. Okay, we'll bring our legs back to the middle again. We're going to switch legs to the other side, and we're going to start with a swing. So we're going to start with just bring our weight forward and then bring our weight back, but our feet kind of stay where they are. Bring the weight forward and bring it back. Feeling your center of gravity on top of your base of support the entire time. Bring your weight forward, bring your weight back. And then when you're ready, we're going to practice lifting the leg. Lifting up, lifting it up. So it's the same leg that's lifting the entire time. One leg stays in contact with the floor at all times, and the other leg is the one lifting forward and lifting back. You're hiking up that knee, lifting forward, lifting back. And as you're doing this, we're not going to go out of control, right? We're not just falling with every step, but we're choosing to bring our weight forward. We're choosing to bring our weight backwards. You're controlling your center of gravity, practicing keeping your center of gravity over your base of support at all times. We're choosing to move in this fashion instead of falling forwards and falling back. Remember to hold on if you need, okay? Keep going. Let's do a few more. Try to hike that knee up even higher if you can. Nicely done, everybody. And we'll stop there for a second. I'm going to face you again. We're going to do the same thing now, but we're going sideways. So our feet are going to be underneath our hips. This time, keeping our feet on the spot, we're just going to practice swaying from side to side. So it's that upside down pendulum activity again, where we're not doing this, right? This is very different. We're not moving the hips side to side. We're keeping our body in one line, and we're shifting the whole thing from side to side, like a pendulum. We're shifting the whole statue of your body from side to side. Shifting your weight to the right side of your base of support, then the left side of your base of support. And then when you're ready, we're going to make that a little bit more challenging. We're going to add in our steps. So we're going to take our leg and we're going to step it out to the side, bring it back into the middle, other side. Step out to the side, bring it back to the middle, lifting that leg if you can. We're shifting our weight over to one side, and then we're shifting it to the other side, bringing your center of gravity over your base of support all times. We're not falling to the side, right? So if I do this, it's very different because you can see my center of gravity is not moving, it's staying in the middle. This is a very different movement. We want to bring our center of gravity to the side, bring our center of gravity to the middle, bring our center of gravity to the side, bringing our center of gravity to the middle. So you're shifting your weight. We're not just doing this, but we're shifting our weight. Nicely done. Shifting our weight. And make sure you're holding on if you need. You can always hold on to something in front of you, but I'm going to move this chair because you won't be able to see me if I have that in front of me, but you can have something in front of you to hold on to, okay? We're being as safe as we can in the class. Good. One more. And coming back, we're going to hold on to our chair. What we're going to do here is we're going to do a little bit of hip strengthening exercise. We're holding on to our chair. We're going to lean forward into the chair a little bit. Bring one leg back. Doesn't matter what leg. We're going to do both. Now you're keeping your body in one line. You're not moving your torso at all. We're going to take the leg. We're moving back. We're bringing the knee up towards the chair. And then we're going to bring it back behind us without it touching the floor. So you're kind of hovering it. You're hovering it. You're bringing your knee forward, and then you're bringing your heel back. It's almost like one of those donkey kicks, but we're not doing a kick. We're bringing the knee forward. We're bringing the knee back. Bring the knee forward. Bring the knee back. And as I'm doing this, you can probably see the rest of my body is really still, right? So this movement here is nice and controlled. Whereas if I do this, then it's not the same thing. I'm exaggerating. I'm sure no one's doing it like that. But I just mean as in we don't want to be moving our back with the leg. We want to keep our back still. Our torso is still. The only thing moving is the leg that we're choosing to move. Everything else is completely still like a statue. You're squeezing that butt cheek muscle to lift that thigh off the floor. Ideally, the thigh is not here. We don't want to be touching the floor. Keep that leg hovering off the floor if you can. Everything else still, okay? 3 more. Nicely done. And then let's switch to the other side. Same thing, holding onto the chair. And you're leaning forward slightly, and then you're bringing the other leg back behind you off the floor, not on the floor, off the floor. So you can lean forward more if you need, and you can bend your supporting knee if you need. And then you're bringing that back knee, you're gonna bring that knee forward, and then you're gonna bring it back behind you. Keep everything else completely still. Remember, we're not moving our back with every movement. We're keeping our back nice and still, squeezing the butt cheek muscle to lift that leg up and bring it forward again. Don't let your back move. Everything else is still, completely still like a statue. You could balance buckets of water on top of your head, maybe on top of the back of your shoulders, and nothing should move. So it's just the leg that you're choosing to move that's actually moving. Bring the knee forward, then lift the leg back behind you. Keeping everything else still if you can. Let's do 5 more here. 5. Breathing. 4. Keep everything still. Just that leg moving. 3. Squeezing the butt cheeks as you lift up. 2. Last one. And bring the leg down, stand back up again. We're now going to find a wall, and we're going to stand with our back against the wall and our hips against the wall. And we're going to do our upper shoulder exercise, or mid shoulder and upper shoulder exercise. We're leaning back into the wall. And what we're going to do here is we're going to bring our arms up into like a W shape, like the letter W. And you're going to squeeze your shoulder blades together such that the back of your arms are touching the wall. So from the side, if I come down this way for a second, let me come a bit closer. So pretend there's a wall behind me. I'm squeezing. So I'm squeezing my shoulder blades together so that my arms also touch the wall from the back. I'm squeezing my shoulder blades together. So I'm standing with my back against the wall, and I'm going to squeeze my shoulder blades together such that my arms are touching the wall. And keeping my shoulder blades squeezing together, I'm going to slide the arms up to a Y shape, a Y shape. And then I'm going to pull them back down to a W shape without the arms losing contact with the wall at all. So you're squeezing your shoulder blades together. Same thing. I'm bringing my arms to a wide Y, and then I'm pulling them back to a W shape. Keep the shoulder blades squeezing back together. The entire length of your arm, of the back of the arms, should be against the wall at all times if you can. Try not to lift your hips off the wall. Keep them on the wall. Squeezing the shoulder blades together. Sliding up to a wide Y and pulling the elbows into a W shape. Squeezing the shoulder blades together. Keep breathing. Nicely done. Let's do a few more here, squeezing the shoulder blades together. So from the side, keep going. You're squeezing the shoulder blades together the entire time as you pull back to a W and then up to a Y, squeezing the shoulder blades together. And let's stop there for a moment. Okay, we're gonna hold on to a chair in front of us and we're gonna end with a bit of a stretch. We're gonna bring one leg back behind us and the leg that's behind us is going to be straight and the front leg is going to be bent such that you're reaching that back heel to the floor, you're really straightening that leg and you should be able to feel a stretch in the calf muscle there, holding that stretch. Keep reaching that back heel to the floor, straightening that back knee. And let's switch sides. Same thing on the other side. You're reaching the back heel down and you're straightening that back knee as well. Good. Now we're going to do a thigh stretch. So you have two options for this. You can grab hold of your foot and pull it up behind you such that you're pulling the foot towards your bottom. Line up your knees together so the knee's not in front of you, right? The knee's got to be beside you and you're pushing your hips forward with the knees together in order to feel the stretch at the front of the thigh or the hip. Or if that's too difficult, bring a chair behind you and you can place your leg on the chair, knees still in line, and you're still pushing your hips forward and you should be able to feel the stretch as well, even though the foot is on a chair, and the higher the chair, the more of a stretch you'll feel. So either version is okay. Either you hold on to the foot and you pull it up, or you leave it on a chair behind you, but the knees have to be in line. Hold that stretch. And then we're going to do the same thing on the other side. Either pull the foot up towards your bottom or put it on a chair behind you, knees in one line, push the hips forward, and you should feel it at the front of the hip and the side. Nicely done, and release. We're going to go back into a seated position. We're going to practice lowering ourselves down into our seats without crash landing, right? So just like before, we're keeping our center of gravity balanced over our base of support as we're lowering down as softly as you can onto the seat. And then once you're onto the seat, we're going to shuffle ourselves back and we're going to lean into the back of the seat. We're slouching here. And then we're going to bring the arms up back behind our ears. Don't let the elbows come forward. You want to open the elbows out to the side so you're stretching the chest. And then we're going to stretch up and over the back of the seat to really feel that stretch in your upper back and your chest. But being careful not to tip the chair. Breathing. Coming back up, let's do that one more time. Release the arms. Bring them back up behind the head. You're slouching, remember. Bring the elbows out to the side. And we're going to go up and over the chair again. And just notice this time, if you're able to stretch a little further than you were at the beginning of the class. You might not remember what you were doing at the beginning of the class, but just make a mental note of how far you're able to stretch without tipping the chair. And release. Sit up nice and tall using your stomach muscles. And you're going to shuffle yourself to the front of your seat. And we're going to take our hand, holding onto the opposite knee. Our other hand's wrapping around the back of the chair, sitting tall. And you're going to twist yourself around into a rotational stretch. So you're looking at the back wall. And just make a mental note here how you're stretching, how far you can go in comparison to at the very beginning of the class. And release. We'll do the same thing on the other side. Take your other hand, holding the opposite knee, other hand wrapping around the back of the chair, sitting tall. And we're going to rotate ourselves around. Try not to let the knees kind of buckle. Keep them where they are. You're looking at the back wall, twisting yourself around. And release those arms. We're going to breathe in, reach our arms up towards the ceiling, wiggle those fingers, big stretch as far as you can go with those fingertips. And then we're going to circle those wrists down. We're going to do that again. Breathing in, reach up as far as you can, stretch those fingers up to the ceiling, give them a bit of a wiggle. And then you're circling your wrists back down. And that is the end of our class. You've done 3 weeks now. This is week 3 of the Stretch and Strengthen exercise series. Well done on getting through that. I hope it was a lot of fun and it was gentle enough to help start the day. Okay. Oh, I've just seen your comment. So when we were talking about the size of the circle earlier, Richard asked how many sides does the circle have? And the answer is 2, inside and outside the circle. Very good. All right, everybody, thank you so much for joining me today for the Stretch and Strengthen exercise series. So this is our low impact, low intensity exercise class. Please do have a look on our Parkinson's website for other classes coming up. They should be out to advertising soon, so do keep an eye out for the other exercise classes coming up later on. Okay, thank you, everybody. Thank you for joining us, and I will see you next week.